and welcome to the Unwanted Opinion podcast, the show in which me and my friends give our unwanted opinion on all things film. My name is Lewis, and I'm joined today with Kyle.
Hello.
Oh, well, that was a big delay on my end there,
Oh,
and
damn.
Gonzalo.
Oh, is it?
Hey.
God.
I think it's fixed now, to be fair.
No, you were good on
Yes,
my end,
so
Kyle.
how you guys doing? How you guys doing?
Good?
Good, apart from
Good,
the
good,
mild delay, I
good.
think it might have in your
Yeah.
end.
There's a
Yeah,
little bit
no,
of
this is
delay
just
in
like
your end,
everyone's
I
just
think,
like
yeah.
there's a lingering waiting for when someone's saying something.
Yeah.
Um,
That
yeah.
just means more
So
interruptions this show. That's fine.
Yeah, that's
yes,
fine.
that's true. Yeah. So on today's episode, because of course we just have our Denis Villeneuve episode out just
Mhm.
there, we're now talking about Dune Part 2. We all finally got to see it this weekend, and so we're going
Yes.
to give a full spoiler and spoiler-filled review for the sci-fi epic that was Dune Part 2. Right. I guess we'll just get right underway with the plot here. So,
Oh, yeah.
Dune Part. By the way, the plot synopsis will be spoiling Dune Part 1. So, if you have not seen Dune Part 1,
Yes.
I don't know why you haven't. Go watch that and then come back here the second film, more importantly. So, Dune Part 2 follows on from the events of Dune Part 1, where House Atreides, after the aftermath of where House Atreides took over the owner of Arrakis and the space production to sort of fuel the whole space travel. They have been betrayed by the Harkonnens and the Emperor, and Duke Leto has died in the attack, as well as a bunch of Atreides troops. Paul Atreides and his mother, Jessica, who's played by Rebecca Ferguson, and Timothy Chalamet, respectively, have now kind of been put into the desert by the Harkonnen attack. And now, after defeating Janice in the last film, Paul Atreides and his mother have been sort of slowly indoctrinated into the Fremen tribe. And now that they've kind of made their way in, Paul finally has an opportunity. Paul and Jessica, I should say, now have an opportunity to sort of use the people around them to get revenge on the Harkonnens and the Emperor. So, very, very brief synopsis there. Right, I guess we'll just right. So, Gonzalo,
Yes.
what did you think of Part 2?
I loved it. I loved the shit out of this movie.
Okay, off the bat, right? Great.
I was so happy. Yeah, no, this was an amazing experience.
Mm.
I was transported again to the world of Arrakis. I was taken through this brilliant story, and yeah, I absolutely loved it, from the performances to the visual storytelling to pretty much the way they tackled the story and the little changes that they did from the book to kind of like hammer down a bit more on the actual themes of the story. I thought it was fantastic. I had an incredible time, and I cannot wait to go watch it again.
Nice, nice. Kyle, what were you? Overall thoughts on
I
Dune
mean,
Part 2?
I'm pretty much the exact same to Gonfalo. I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's not been many films that visually have stunned me so much. I mean, you
Mm,
could pause this
Mm-hmm.
film at any moment, and I would probably take it as like a picture or a
yeah,
poster. The
10,
cinematography
100%.
is honestly probably the most amazing I've seen in such a long time. Just especially with these kind of grander shots,
Mm,
especially later in part of the
Mm-hmm.
film, you see Paul walking through like masses of crowds, and they
Mm-hmm.
do them. I saw it with my dad, and there was some times that he like properly audibly gasped at some of the
mm,
visuals that are being shown on the screen, which that fills me with joy with like seeing other people who are maybe not as pernickety about that sort of thing than we
mm,
are, that
Mm-hmm.
they're noticing these kind of really beautiful aspects of filmmaking that
mm,
just gave me so much joy. And like you said, of how the performances, I think for me, my standout probably was actually Zendaya in the
yes.
later halves, because there
Yeah,
are
she's good.
segments where
She's good.
she is just acting with her eyes for
Yes,
about
yes,
five,
100%.
10 minutes, not saying a
Mm-hmm.
word, but you know everything that's being said.
Mm,
Oh my god, she was
mm.
incredible. Um, Hans Zimmer, hands down. Oh my god, he is just fire on
Yeah.
fire after the first Dune.
Yeah.
There's not much. There's a lot of similarities to the first Dune and this Dune in the score as
Mm,
well.
It is
It's
one
not like
big
he's
movie. It feels like.
yeah.
exactly. He's not reinventing the wheel
Mm-hmm.
with it, but
Mm-hmm.
he's just giving it again. There's no lacking with his score. Just honestly, so good. And I agree
Mm,
with the whole kind of story aspect that I think some of the changes they make did help it, especially when it's maybe trying to go to a
mm.
more general,
Mm-hmm.
wider audience,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
we can maybe talk about that in the spoilers of what it originally is. But there would be some aspects that we could say may come off a bit weird if you don't, if you're not in
Yeah.
depth knowledge. But anyway, yeah, that was me.
Mm.
That was me, Lewis. Yourself.
Nice. Yeah, I really liked it. I think this is pretty much consistent with me with the first Dune. Like I said, it feels like one big movie to me. Like when it comes to pure world building, escapist sci-fi, the production values, the cinematography, the visual effects are all unmatched. I think this is a really transportive film. This is one where, like, when I was like, "Oh I'm somewhere else." The entire time, I'm somewhere else. The performances, for the most part, are all really stellar. This is a big step up. I know the first one, Paul's a bit more of a reserved character. He's kind of more of a blank slate, and this one he obviously really becomes his own. Because that's kind of that part of the story. And I really, really, really like Timothy Chalamet's performance. Rebecca Ferguson, well, really
She's
quite
brilliant.
villain
Yeah.
actually. Really like the way
Yeah.
she portrayed Rebecca, and Zendaya. Really like Zendaya in this one too. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna forget. I really loved Austin Butler in this. Awesome. What he could
Yeah.
do with his voice.
Yeah.
I know everyone's
Oh
obviously
my
makes all the
god,
jokes about the
yeah.
Elvis thing, but
Yeah.
the way he uses his
The
voice, and
Skarsgård
because
voice.
Yes.
Fucking
yeah,
incredible.
it's great. And I remember only going in, I only saw that little clip where there's sort of the knife fight near the end. They released that clip online where they sort of say, "I hope may my blade chip and
May your blade
shatter."
chip and
And
shatter.
I was like, so that voice, like, oh my god, that's
Mhm.
fantastic. And he really knows how to use his voice in a performance, and I thought he was a really stellar villain. I mean, I think I have more gripes with you than you guys when it comes to sort of the pace of it, and sort of the way the ending goes. And like I said, there is a performance in there which I found pretty distracting. Some of the characters I also think have underutilized to some degree. Overall, I had a fantastic time, and this is true spectacle, true blockbuster spectacle. But yeah, so what other elements do you guys want to jump into there?
Well, I just want
Yeah.
to can I just say one thing which I think will maybe
Mm.
shock you. So,
Mm.
Dune Part 1 and Part 2 combined
Yeah.
came to a total of 285 million, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
Marvels was done for 270. I just want to give you that. I just want
Wow.
title goal is long box office.
Wow.
Like, so just
Box
picture
office
that.
figures always fascinate me.
And that film
Wow.
was an hour and
Mhm.
40
I
minutes, and
mean,
combined these are about 6 hours or 5
Wow.
hours,
mhm,
50
I
or
mean,
40 or whatever.
I guess when you're actually good at filmmaking and you prepare things in advance and you actually, try your best to implement things in a way to make it cost effective, then you can actually get to do
You can
stuff like
actually do
this.
it.
Yeah.
No, I just thought I'd give you that little
yeah.
cute little fact that I
Damn.
Well,
found
thank
out.
you. I mean, like you're saying, like we talk about a lot on the show, it's not about how much money you throw at a
No.
project, it's about
It's
how much
how
time
well
and
you do
the
it.
expertise
Yeah.
and how well it's
Mhm.
directed and how they sort of blend physical and practical and know how to use visual effects.
Planning
But
is
if we want to
such
talk
a
about moments,
important part.
we really loved, I want to talk about some
Mm.
of my favorite sequences in the film, and I really
Okay.
want to begin with the Giddy Prime stuff. The Harkonnen's homeworld,
Yeah.
that entire 15 to 20
The
minutes
sun.
sequence with the whole induction of Floyd Ruther and the Baron's nephew,
Mm.
and that whole gladiator arena, the fireworks, the sort of manipulation of Floyd. Am I pronouncing his name right? Is it Fade or Freud? It's not Freud, obviously.
I think it's Fade. I'm
Fade.
not sure.
I think it's more
I always
Fade than
read.
Floyd.
It's so weird. I always imagined there was.
I've
Yeah,
heard
yeah,
Fade
Fade.
mostly in the movie, but
Yeah.
I know expert.
Yeah.
So.
I loved that stuff. That entire design, the entire the entire aesthetic of it. Adored it, and obviously the whole oh well, if they have a black sun.
He just got. Okay, right. So we've slightly
We
lost
lost
Lewis there
Lewis.
for a brief minute.
This is gonna be fun
Until he
in
comes back,
editing.
I'll just continue. But
Yeah.
yeah, no. See when they talk about the black sun, right? See
Yes.
when you watch it in the trailers, no idea why it was
No.
black and
Yeah.
white,
Yeah.
and you're a bit kind of thrown with that, and you're like, right, I don't know what's gonna be happening because the last time I've ever seen like a weird black and
Thor.
white sequence, yeah, Thor:
Yeah.
Love and Thunder, and
Yeah.
you're like, Right. I mean, not a great comparison
That
to
was still
the.
the best part of that movie, but
Well, yeah,
it
but
ain't
I had
saying
to say
much.
that the
Yeah,
whole black and white sequence
I
of
loved it
Dune
so
Part
much.
Two, like
The way
on
it
the
was also
idea that it's
like,
under the sun.
yeah, it was so clear there was the atmosphere and the light coming from the sun that bathed everything in those stark blacks and whites, and it really did kind of like make the Harkonnens somehow even more creepy and despicable. So yeah, no, 10 out of
Yeah,
10.
it was pretty creepy.
It was
Um,
really good.
what was your like? Well, what was your
Hmm.
one of your sequences, Gunfire? You
Well,
continue, and I'll try and see if I can get him back on.
without spoiling it, the final kind of confrontation at the end, the big final kind of confrontation. Don't want to spoil it too much,
Oh,
but
he's
that was.
back.
Oh, he's
There we go.
back. He's back.
Yeah.
There we go. So you were talking about the Black
I don't know
Sun.
what
You're
happened.
just saying
Yeah,
how
we were
much
just we, we
Yes,
you
just
like
yeah.
the
we
black
just
and
jumped
white
on your
stuff.
comment.
I was actually listening to what you were saying.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
yeah, like you were saying, yeah, with the idea of using the black sun and black and white. I mean, I thought that was just a really smart. I thought it would be black and white because I thought it was like a flashback. So I'm sure in the book
Yeah.
I thought that stuff was the flashback. So I thought that's
Mm,
why they were kind of doing like the Oppenheimer thing, or
yeah.
like something like that. But
Oh,
they
yeah,
they,
yeah,
they
yeah.
kind of just did it because the
Mm.
whole black sun, the
No,
whole use of fireworks.
yeah. It
Great.
was
The
so
ink, it
stunning
was like a
seeing as
weird
well.
ink blotch as
Right,
well. That's what
yeah.
I really
Yeah,
It,
liked.
yeah,
that's
yeah.
see, that's the thing that really gets me about this movie. It's not just the effects being really good or the performances being amazing or the
Mhm.
cinematography. The fucking art direction. Like it's
Mhm.
oh my god, it's absolutely
Mhm.
stellar. Absolutely stunning. Whoever came up with the idea of like, oh, how do we do fireworks for like
A
basically the
black and
oil
white.
barons of sci-fi?
Yeah,
Oh, let's just fucking have like a fucking blotch of ink just exploding in the sky. It's
it's
great.
the weird. It's like the mild world building and that kind of sequence alone. When
Mm,
you've got Faye Rhodes like in his room, and he's just
mm.
kind of like
Mhm.
you get introduced to the psychotic guy by him just killing off his servants, and
Yeah,
then like
yeah,
Yep,
the
he
yep.
way
drops
he
some like
treats
really
people like
weird
objects.
lines,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, leave the body for the girls. They haven't eaten in a while, and then you've just
Mm,
got this random idea that he's just got these free cannibals as
mm.
pets in his
Yeah.
Yeah.
room, and you're just like, what the
Yeah.
hell?
Yeah,
It's
Yeah,
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 so
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
it's so
I
subtle and
kind of forgot
random.
the film was
Yeah.
rated 12A at that point. I was like,
Oh, whoa,
wait,
was it?
Yeah.
That
yeah,
is. No,
yeah,
I wouldn't want like a 12-year-old
yeah.
to see that shit. No.
Well, that was
It
the
is
thing
like
because
psychologically
Yeah.
scaring stuff, like without
it
being
says
very
like
graphic.
mild violence of it as a 12A, and we came out of it. And my dad went, "That
Uh,
said mild." It's like that was more than
That
mild.
is surely
yeah.
did not say mild. There's people get
It does.
stabbed in the
It says
neck
like
and stuff in
Dude,
mild
this.
even
violence.
dude,
Uh,
even the scene of the baby worm being drowned, that
yeah.
is so graphic. That is
Oh, I actually
so
felt quite sad for that
I
baby
felt
worm. I'm not
so
gonna
bad
lie.
for that
Yeah,
baby
it's
worm.
a
That
poor little
is
worm. Yeah, yeah,
Spoilers:
it
there's a
was
baby worm in
beautiful.
this film.
Yeah, I mean, I
yeah.
guess that is kind of
I
spoilery. I
guess.
guess I don't know.
Mhm,
It's not really that like a big thing, right? It's
mhm,
fine. It's fine. Anyways,
Do you know what?
mhm.
stunning,
Yeah.
absolutely
I
stunning.
One of my favorite sequences was right.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Was when Paul does his first sand ride or worm
Yes,
ride,
Yeah, it was a good
yes,
right?
sequence.
yes, yes.
Because
Mhm,
I really loved the idea of them just running and jumping on it. Like they'll put the
Hmm.
thumper down
Hmm.
low, they'll go up high to be above
Yeah.
the worm.
mhm,
Because the last kind of time you see in David Lynch's one, they're just kind of going up to it,
mhm.
chucking ropes on it, and trying to climb
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like I thought that kind of change of it was really kind of
That
smart.
makes
Like
a
it's
lot of
almost
sense. Yeah.
it's a force that's coming past, and they're going
Mhm,
up and
Yeah.
then I read something
mhm.
where like a lot
Yeah.
of that scene was done practically, where they were like chucking, like they had like
Whoa.
a wind machine and just chucking
Yeah.
sand at Timothy for like
That was
hours
brilliant
just to
because
get the kind of
it
these like
feels. Yeah.
feels. I thought
Like
that
that's the
sequence
thing.
was just so
The
good.
sand felt so
Mhm.
much like a tidal wave in that scene. Like the
Yeah.
force of it was so felt, and I love that without d- like telling you at all. I completely understand how the sand writing works and how the
Mate,
worms stay on the
yes,
surface
I
because
was
they
lit
open up their
the
nostrils to
vents.
force them to
Uh
kind of like stay up because obviously they would go down otherwise. But those
Mhm.
hooks that
But
they
if they
used to like
expose the
stay on top,
nostrils, then
they
their
expose
sand would go into it.
exactly Yeah,
That is what you call
it's
visual
fucking
storytelling, people.
brilliant.
It's so good.
Exactly. There wasn't a single moment where fucking Stilgar was like, okay,
That's
so step
gonna
one is
be
going
in
to be
that's
put
gonna
the
be in
hooks in it.
future cinema
Yeah.
classes.
So good.
Lewis, when
So
if
good.
you ever end up teaching, I want you to be like, right, visual
Yeah.
storytelling, the
Yeah.
sandworm's nostrils, lads. That's what
Yes,
we're talking
yes.
about today.
So fucking good. I don't even know how sandworm anatomy works, but just with
Why
those
would you know
shots,
what
I can
Sandworm
understand
anatomy
it. Well,
works?
I'm saying I'm not like a Dune nerd that like knows all the sandworm anatomy or anything
Well,
like that,
actually,
but
the
without
internal
knowing any of
organs.
it,
You know, you just whack
I'm
it.
100% sure there are several diagrams
Mm,
explaining sandworm anatomy online.
yeah.
But yeah,
I know.
no, he's
I
Now let's
brilliant.
well, what you
He's
do in your
brilliant.
spare time.
let's delve into sort of the ideas behind
Yeah.
Dune Part 2. And we'll
Yes.
more into spoilers when
Like the
we can
philosophy.
talk about
Yeah.
specific scenes. But overall,
Yeah.
thematically speaking, what you've kind of got here is the idea of faith being used as a sort of a weapon, as a tool
Yes.
of manipulation, a way for more powerful people to get what they want. And I really, really liked, like I was saying, I want to talk about Rebecca Ferguson. I really liked her performance. Does feel quite different to the first film, where she
Yes.
feels
Yeah.
more reserved and more cautious of Paul, and you know,
Yes.
sort of playing the you know the political wife in that first film. But now she's sort of unleashed here, and she can sort of enact her own plan that's sort of kind of been planted by the Bene Gesserit for years, for like for when they sort of planted one of the Reverend Mothers there like 90 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
I really liked how kind of dark and sinister this goes. I liked. I mean, I never thought Denis or well, Warner Brothers isn't a great studio, but regardless, I never thought a filmmaker like Denis would cop out and make things very easily cut and dry, change things to make it more of a hero's tale. I'm glad that is not what you get here. I mean, obviously,
it could have happened.
yeah, it could have happened. Especially, I mean, Dune Part 1, the characters aren't they are not
put
as
a lot of
morally
efforts.
ambiguous as they are in this one.
They put a lot of effort in
But,
Doom Part 1 to kind of relate you to these characters, especially
Yes.
like the house the Atreides house. Like they really make you like them. They take out a lot of the shitty shit that they were doing behind the scenes in the book, and they kind of like make them like like very much the good guys. And I'm really happy that they don't just run with that and completely change the story.
No.
It's brilliant, yeah.
But yeah, I mean that the whole thing that's the main story here. I mean, obviously sort of reinforced by Stilgar, which I think Stilgar. I mean, there's a lot of memes on him online already, but Stilgar as a character is really fascinating. I really like Javier Bardem in this film too.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's pretty much great and everything, but his performance and the way they sort of time his dialogue and his reactions to things at first is very funny, and it's like this is like kind of almost a comic relief character to an extent, but he still has that sort of capacity to sort of feel like a leader.
Oh, I laughed several
but then
times.
You get to the second half of the film, and then his performance, what you've seen before, kind of turns into something
sad.
A bit sad, a bit darker, and you're like, oh wow, this is going into something way more extreme.
I adore his character change from the like stoic, almost unmovable force of like command that he starts off with in the first movie to what he becomes at the end. And I think his character arc, as opposed to kind of like, I think his shadow is pretty much Cheney in this movie. Like those two kind of like tell the story of what Dune is about.
Well, they do that great. They do the great world building of acknowledging the different tribes of the Fremen.
Yes,
where you've got the North, which is where Chani's from, who don't really believe in the prophecy as much as the Southern tribe, which is where Stilgar's from, and they're the ones where apparently in the
makes
Southern
a lot
tribes
of
there's
sense.
like millions of them. Which is a really interesting kind of divide of like the whole religion. That if you look at the Freeman as one religion, but there's still little diversions within them. That some of them are like, no, we don't believe this part of the prophecy, or we don't believe that.
It makes a lot of sense in the sense that the southern Fremen live under even harsher conditions than the northern Fremen. Like we're told that the conditions in the south are like to what the
Well,
Harkonnens think,
it's meant to be
uninhabitable.
uninhabitable.
Yeah,
Yeah, they don't even believe
so
anybody lives there because of how
it
harsh the
makes
conditions are.
total sense that people who live under such harsh conditions would need something like hope and would be more susceptible to a religion or like an answer or a messiah than the people of the north, which are under least less harsh conditions. Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
it comes into that
Yeah.
whole idea of like the environment itself shaping people, which we saw with the whole idea of like, you know, the army of the emperor being in like this prison planet with really harsh conditions. And like in the first
yeah.
movie we talked about how like he just like his father wanted to use them because sand power, because they're like they're really good because of the harsh conditions that have shaped them and stuff. Like it kind of goes into that whole idea of like, you know, environment shaping the culture and the people. Also
Yeah.
goes into how easily to manipulate they are when it comes to religion and, you know,
I mean,
prophecies and heroes,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. You talk about that
Yeah.
manipulation. You've got that bit. I think it was probably one of the kind of comic relief bits of Stilgard early on, where they're trying to like, is Paul this kind of messiah? And
Yeah.
then Paul's going, no, I'm not. And then Stilgar's talking to people.
Yeah.
Classic Messiah, not saying he's the Messiah. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Yeah,
that, it's
yeah,
that,
yeah.
It's hilarious, but
it's
it's
such a.
Yeah.
My dad
Yeah.
said to
It
me, he
felt
was
like
like, "That
Monty
is such a Life of
Python's Life
Brian."
of
Yeah,
Brian.
that is such a
Yes,
Life of
yes, yes,
Brian slogan,
yes. Yeah,
100%. But then that's the
yeah.
kind of Stilgar almost kind of like
Mm,
cracking to these southern tribes, being like,
mm,
"No, no, no, he
Yeah.
is like that." He's saying he's
Mhm.
not, but that's because he
yeah,
is.
yeah.
He's so
Mhm.
Oh,
And
I thought that was
it's
so
such a
subtle,
good,
funny,
yeah, it
but like really prominent to actually what it was
pretty
going
sad.
on.
You find these
Um,
people who are strong and capable and independent, and suddenly, just because that idea that had been planted not by their own culture but by the Bene Gesserit
Yeah.
centuries ago, it just blossoms this
Mhm.
seed of just
Mhm.
obedience and dependence,
Yeah.
and it's
Mhm.
fucking terrifying. It's
because like
honestly
Mhm.
really
you
scary,
need to,
especially how you see them reacting at the end to
yeah,
everything. You're like,
Mhm.
fuck me, like
Yeah.
how have you changed so much? And it's because of that seed of
Mhm.
like basically manipulative religion that was planted there. Oh,
because the
it's
idea that
brilliant, it's so good.
the Brexit Judiciary, I've been doing this for
Yeah.
90 years, sowing the
Mm.
seeds to try and get the Kwisatz Haderach, and then
Yes.
obviously Jessica kind of
Mhm.
decides to have a boy because she wants to do it out of love.
Yeah.
I also loved that you could just
Mhm.
choose what sex your child
Yeah.
is, or I guess that's only
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
No,
Bene
but that's the thing,
Gesserits,
because like their
like
whole thing is that they
Yeah.
have full control over their biology and their bodies. Like,
yeah,
I
Mhm.
believe there's this scene in the book where like she literally changes her fingerprints to match like a
Mhm.
lock, just because like she has that much control over her body. Because like the whole idea is like
they're so
they are in
interesting as like
control. Yeah,
characters.
yeah.
But
Mhm.
then
Yes.
can we like I want to quickly just kind of jump
Hmm.
onto like the spectacle, because I think Lewis can agree as
Hmm.
Yeah.
such that in the book there's not
Mhm.
the action is a lot more people telling you that there's
No.
fighting going on,
Things
Yeah.
right?
happened. Yeah.
And
Yes,
there's
exactly.
sections where
Yeah.
it's like and then they fought.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that doesn't translate well to like a multi-million
Yeah.
dollar
No.
block
Uh,
Yeah.
office. So like when obviously with the trailers they did tease a lot more
uh-huh.
action.
Mm,
I
mm,
have to say that
Mhm.
I know that the final act was great and all, but see that
mm.
initial when they're
The
taking down the
skirmishes.
Spice Walker,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
And you're
Oh, yeah, yeah,
you're
we
learning
with
the
the Chani
ways
and,
of the
Paul.
Mm,
Fremen.
Uh-huh.
mm,
Uh-huh. Because you
Yeah.
got those I was like, it really kind of shows that you got these radicalists that are like few in numbers, but
mm.
like the methods
Mhm.
they use can take
Yeah.
down these giant
Mhm.
machines. And they had that amazing almost like snorkel of them
Yes,
lying in
yes,
the
the
sand. You know
snorkel
that wee
thing,
kind of like
it's so
black thing.
good. Because we
I
kind
thought
of
that
Yeah.
saw
action
something
sequence
like that in
was
the first movie.
incredible.
Like at the
Yeah,
beginning of
because
the
they
first
always
movie where
lie
they
in the
suddenly
sand and
jump
they
out of the sand and you're like, what the
yeah.
fuck? And like now you
Yeah.
get to see how they do that. I also think it's fantastic because it gives you like full on like Vietnam kind of vibes of like these guerrilla warriors that are clearly like defending a territory they know very
Guerrilla
well
warrior,
Yeah.
against
yeah,
this
yeah, I give you that.
imperialist force coming with the superior manpower, but they're still losing because they don't know how the
Yeah.
fuck to fight in
Don't know
this
how to use the
environment.
environment.
It
Yeah,
is,
it's great.
and
Uh-huh.
it really does manage to do one thing that I didn't know they were going to be capable of, and it's build that relationship between them two, like between Cheney and Paul. I actually
Yeah,
believe that they're like a good couple. Like I actually believe that they care about each other and they love each other and they respect each other.
Yeah.
Like
I
it's
actually
really
think
good.
in
Yeah.
comparison with the book, I think the love story is a bit stronger here. I
Yeah.
feel it more.
Mm-hmm.
I also think Chani does become, especially when you get to, I won't,
Yes.
we'll get to spoilers. I'll talk more about
Yeah.
why I think Chani is very much the heart and soul of this film.
They changed their character a lot from the book,
Yeah.
but it's
They
I really,
focus
really
on the
like
characters a lot
the
more as
conclusion
well.
of
Like
it.
that's yeah.
yes.
Oh, the conclusion is
Mhm.
so good. I think for that
But
like
yeah,
small change,
100%.
I think is
Yeah.
really good, which we'll
I
talk
I
about.
We'll talk
think
about that in
it goes
spoilers.
to how
Yeah.
you adapted a book like Dune, because Dune is about ideas, about philosophical discussion, and when it comes to filmmaking, like I've talked about this tirelessly at this point. I like how films are basically an essay. They're trying to present an idea, explore it, and then give you a conclusion from that idea. So I
Yeah.
feel like the way this movie does it is, instead of having pages and pages of conversations between characters, they make each character represent one of those ideals. They focus more on that character development, and they both make them more interesting characters and less realistic characters by actually make them represent these ideas. And it does change slightly from the book, but I think in audiovisual format, it comes across really, really strong, and it manages to actually communicate those ideas, which, I mean, Frank Herbert struggled so much to communicate them. He had to write a sequel to make sure people actually got what the fuck the book was about, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he went off the rails
so
a wee bit,
also,
but yeah.
yeah, he went a bit there. But I really little thing I liked how we got to see some mentats in this one. You never got to see any
Yes.
mentats in the last one. You got to see the actual human computers in this. I was like, oh, finally. Right. I did mention when I was going through it, I do have some issues with the sort of, I do feel like the third act is a little rushed and stuff. And there was an actor who I think was pretty miscast here. I wonder if you can guess who that was.
Yes, I'm pretty sure I can guess.
Is it the Emperor?
It's the Emperor, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
Christopher
Yeah.
Walken. Look, I love Christopher Walken, but this just no. I felt it was so weird because when he's in a room with every other cast member, I'm just like, he just looks confused as to where he is. I'm like,
he does.
He also doesn't seem
feels
very
more
powerful.
Of a puppet. Yeah,
but that's
it felt like a puppet of an emperor.
He's just like,
yes, I don't dislike it. I understand why you would dislike it, especially having read the book. But I think what the idea was is, in the book, it's this really strong feeling character who then is secretly powerless under that surface of like imposing his power. I think they just took that away and made it more obvious that he was like
that. It was just, I think Christopher Walken's delivery does not suit this world. Even though he is a strange guy and he's a strange actor.
Yeah.
But when he was delivering, I did chuckle at because he delivered some line and it was like in his weird cadence. I'm like, surely someone would have been like, right, this doesn't really work. This doesn't really work.
I liked him at the start when he didn't say a word. That was fun.
He doesn't say anything. He's great. When he looks sad. I'm like, great. I was like, we're off to a good start. But it's just weird when everyone else is really committed and it feels like they are other people, even when you have superstars like Zendaya and Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah, I'd say that
it was just
Florence
weird.
Pugh as Princess Erma, I think, kind of saved whatever kind of scenes those were, because I really loved her performance.
She was really good.
You know, it's somebody that was clearly being guided by the Reverend Mother, the Bennett Gesserit Reverend Mother, from the first film, where she's obviously kind of guiding Princess Erma and being like, you know, do you feel this? And she goes, well, I do feel this. And she goes, yeah, you do. And it's kind of like, and I love that she kind of feels she's got this kind of free will, and then kind of has this kind of moments. But I do agree that like Christopher Walken was like that one character you're kind of like, do you know who I did love? I just think he's great in it, is Dave Bautista, because he just becomes an absolute bitch in this film, and I just love that for him.
Oh, that was right. Here's a character. That's what I was saying. I feel like he was really underutilized here. I feel like he just came, screamed, and then that was it.
No,
like,
I liked his role. I liked
he did do a lot of screaming. He was.
I think
it's weird because I like the Harkonnen so much. I know it's Paul's story and stuff. David Bautista is a weird one. He was one now. Why why is he only in this for 5 minutes? Especially, well, I can't spoil it, I guess. But
no, but
yeah,
I
I'll get
like
that
Dave
spoilers.
Bautista's character, and I like the way he was utilized, because I feel like he is less of a person and more of a representation. Like, obviously, he represents the Harkonnens kind of like, voyeurism. In his case, it's just like wrath. He's like constantly like advancing with a hammer no matter what. He doesn't know how to stop and think, and he just lets his emotions take over him. I mean, how many fucking Harkonnen does he just kill in this movie
no,
because they make him
well,
stop to
obviously
think?
his
Yeah.
Frey also does that. Like, anytime somebody goes, "Sorry, are you sure?" they get killed, and I was like, I would just not say anything in those
not say
meetings.
anything.
Like,
Like,
you say
learned
something,
at this point,
you get
man.
killed. I have to admit, I feel like you would have gone more of that character if. So, like, one minor, not a huge thing, but like the time jump is different in the book than the film. It's much longer in the book, and I feel that could have been represented in his kind of, like you're saying, going into that hammer, like straight, no kind of strategic thinking, just full on anger. Could have maybe been represented better if we had a bit more of a time frame, and you could see it kind of slowly losing it, because in this film he he gets replaced by his younger brother, Austin Butler's character. After what feels like only a couple of months, and I'm like, I feel like maybe a wee bit longer to show like the full downfall.
Yeah, because it does feel like a couple months rather than like years go by.
It does really feel like
a
couple of months, and in this world where it's meant to be like things are meant to feel longer because you're in this kind of galactic setting.
Yeah, I will say, unless like pregnancies take a lot longer in Arrakis for some reason, in which case
no idea why you would say a pregnancy. That's just a random comment.
That's just a random comment.
To have right now.
Yeah. Wait, don't we actually get that on the last movie? I thought we got a thing.
Did we?
No, I thought we got like a mention of her being pregnant in the last movie.
Wait, yeah, Jessica was pregnant.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good. Okay,
yeah.
right?
No, I mean in the last film. Do we get the comment that she's pregnant in the last film?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, in the last one, I think. In the first part one, I think so. Yeah. Like right at the end when they're doing the monologue and stuff and thing, and like she holds her belly at some point, right? I think. I don't know.
Maybe I'm pretty sure. I've not seen Dune Part 1 in a couple of years, but I'm pretty sure she's pregnant.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch Part 1 again.
She is, I'm pretty sure, because Paul obviously has like visions in the desert. Does he not know? Anyway, I don't think that's a spoiler. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
I mean, even if it is, you find out it's within 5 minutes.
It's fine. It's not important. It's fine. Maybe next.
Anyway, let's jump to spoilers. Let's do this first, and then let's jump to spoilers. So, Gonzalo, what are you giving Dune Part 2?
I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. I fucking loved it the same way I loved the first movie. These movies are gonna go down in history as a great, like the best adaptation Dune's ever gonna get, and people are gonna remember them.
I can't imagine them doing another one after this.
Cannot, no.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, well. Kyle's determined.
I don't think she was pregnant in the first. Well, no, she obviously was pregnant in the first film. But I'm pretty sure you don't know.
Maybe it is a spoiler. I'm sorry if that was a spoiler. It's not that important now. It'll be more important in the next movie, I guess.
It's also, like I said, you find out 5 minutes of the film.
You find out initially. Out of a really, sorry, yeah. Sorry. 10 out of 10 as well. I'm gonna have to go rewatch Dune Part 1 again. I only watched it last week. I'm like, I don't think
you should know. You should be the one telling us.
I know.
Sure
I remember
you feel like it's not.
Making me question it.
Not be. Yeah.
Anyway, 10 out of 10. Yeah, sorry. You go ahead. I'm gonna try to think.
You're elaborate on why he's giving this right. Okay. Give it a 10 out of 10. I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10. I do have
so stingy.
Yeah, I know. I do have greater issues with it. I do think, like I said, it's great escapism. It's a film that needs to be seen on the big screen. It's spectacular. It's transportive. Everyone, for the most part, is really good. I personally have some pacing issues with it towards the third act, as well as also plot. I'll get into some spoilers. Plot-wise, why the third act is sort of kind of just like... don't really have to phrase it without spoiling it, so I won't.
Yeah. We'll talk about it.
I also just like... Yeah. I mean, I think it's I really, really, really am interested in the themes behind the film as well. I think it's really fascinating. great world building, great the entire production is absolutely fabulous. Like I say, it has truly incredible moments, like the Harkonnen's homeworld and the whole sort of climactic battle as well. I just do have some pacing issues with it, and I do have some. I think emotionally, I'm not as connected to these people. But overall, as an allegory for something, I think it's very strong. And I think it's very consistent with that first film. It's one big 5+ hour film to me, and a really really good one at that. So I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. Right. Let's jump into spoilers and let's jump right to the end, okay? Let's jump. This is
first
ending
before
here, right?
we start. I forgot to mention. It might be 3 hours. It does not feel like 3 hours. It goes by.
I think it's just under 3 hours. You're right. It doesn't feel 3 hours. That film I saw the night before felt like 3 hours, but I would mention that.
Yes. Okay. So the ending.
But
Cal's still looking into the pregnancy thing.
He's still on his phone.
He's still looking on the.
He still can't believe
pregnancy thing.
Alex, are you reading the script, Dune Part 1? Like I don't know what you're doing.
I literally am. I'm trying to remember if he was right at the end of the film.
Let it go. I guess right. Me and Cal concede, right? Yes. Jumping to the very end. Right.
What's your major issue with the ending? So now we're talking to
the
people
major
who've seen
issue,
the
right?
movie.
So
yes.
My it's not right. So this is what I mean. There's kind of problem with the very idea of and conducting this narrative of having a character who can see the future, right?
Yes.
Obviously, with that, you then take away some dramatic tension because the guy knows how to win, right?
Yes.
That being said, I thought they would hopefully change stuff for the final, because in the book, the final battle isn't really a final battle. It's just a pure domination, right? Yes. Until the book just ends, right? It's domination. Yes. He asks Princess Aurelia to marry him, and then the book just ends, right?
Yes.
And that's why when I was reading it, I was like, okay, whatever. And they kind of did it again. They just destroy everyone. He wrecks. Fair in the battle, in the knife battle, is a bit more grisly than it is in the book. I think he just wipes the floor with them. And there's the ending kind of has a bit more of a montage, a bit more sequence. Like I'm saying, the Chani stuff I want to get into as well. But there isn't really a battle. It's decimation. And I'm like, great. Okay.
So
sure.
So what I feel the issue is here is that scenes like this, you don't want just to be like a philosophical conflict. You want to add the actual like literal danger on top of that. For me, it worked because I knew, like, I was more enthralled into what this would mean. I was basically, I feel like the film got me.
They can have the same meaning, and they can be more. They
Definitely.
can be more at risk.
No, but I can understand. I can understand what you mean, and I can understand how that suspense, not being physical, just being like the metaphorical suspense of what could happen if this war is won, kind of thing, but not the literal of like, are they actually going to win thing, or having like that belly of the whale moment where like it seems like they're not winning, but then they somehow manage to take it back. Like I understand how not having that would have taken you out of it. For me, it worked because I was specifically more invested in the whole like meta narrative of like, holy shit, if they win here, what does that going to mean? And I was like, for me, a lot of the suspense came from just the fact that I was like, the movie tricked me. I knew that this happening and the way this was going to go down was eventually going to be a bad thing. I knew, like, I was seeing it in Chani's reaction, and I was like with her character, but Paul's charisma kind of got to me, and the idea of like kicking the ass of someone I didn't like got to me so much that I felt myself cheering for them as they decimate the Harkonnen and the Empire, like, and the Imperium and stuff. And then at the point that they actually won, I was like, oh fuck, this isn't a good thing, actually, is it? So like I was just full on cheerleading. This felt like hell yeah,
before
let's
that,
see this moment.
before that though, they make it, I think musically they do a great job. They make it very clear that Paul is a bad guy with the music and the dark hood, and I'm going to become a Harkonnen, and he's on a back thing, and it's so kind of dark. And the music makes it very clear this is not good. So that's why for me, I'm just like, I was never really with when it got to that point. I was like, well, I know where this is going to go. This is not a good thing. This is going to lead to
Yes.
billions of deaths across the stars.
But those worms are cool, man.
So already I was like, yeah, okay, I know where this is going.
Put away your childlike brain.
Yeah. But for me, that's what I mean, like, right, because you then would have had more of a conflict going on if there's more of a back and forth, because when it's just decimation, I'm like, look, I know Paul's going to well, obviously I know where it's going, I've read the book, but forget that for a minute, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Paul's winning, that's great. Yes. He's going to cause an absolute, a jihad across the stars and a big religious war, okay? But when there's more back and forth, we already don't like the Harkonnens and the Emperor, right? Because they betrayed Duke Leto and they're evil and psychotic, right? And then you have this Messiah, and this guy who's manipulated an entire race of people, right? So you have two villainous evil people going at it, and if there's a back and forth, as a viewer, I think I would have been like, I don't really know what to
and
feel
they could have,
and they could have done that.
Yeah.
And they definitely could have done that because we've established.
I would feel conflicted what's happening on screen.
Yes,
like I don't know,
cinematically from the first movie, we've established that visions aren't clear and that like the future isn't set, and he's seen visions of the future that then we see mirrored slightly different and stuff. Like, no, but you know what I mean. Like they've established that like even though
the best
he can
thing
see
about
the future now,
hasn't happened yet. I know, right? Somebody's seen the
I haven't seen Madame Web. I haven't seen Madame Web, guys. I don't know.
I want to preface
you know what I mean?
So
they could have done.
I get what you mean, but I feel you have to kind of appreciate, and I'm trying to be nicer here with this, trying not like go mental, is that the only people that have been saying that Paul is the Messiah is really Jessica, right?
Yeah.
She's the one that's pushing it to everybody.
Yeah.
There's no actual kind of proof. Like, that's the whole point of Messiah, is that there's no actual proof that he is this Messiah, and they kind of go a lot into that more in, ironically, Dune Messiah. They go into that
Messiah,
kind of concept of, who would have thought. So I kind of like the idea that it's like, you're watching him go insane and he knows the future, but what I really like was the whole, like, him knowing that once he goes south, it's all over. Like, he has that vision of, as soon as he crosses that storm, then that's when it's just all the stuff's gonna lie up and he's just gonna fall into the place. But I don't know if it is just because I've lived with this story for a lot longer that I was just
it's hard. It's hard. You have a lot.
It's hard.
Yeah, of course.
Like I have like a love for it for like more years than you would have had. So like, seeing that kind of holy war happen, was that positive for me? Yeah.
You want to see it.
Would I want to see it? But then like, the point of Dune, right, which is trying to explain my girlfriend, was that it's not meant to be like a whole action pack heavy. It's not your Star Wars where it's really like simplistic. The whole thing is so more in the details and the stuff, which is where I'm not as upset with it being like a whole like dominating thing.
I agree.
Because in my mind, it's not. Okay. He's meant to be more of a tidal wave where Jessica sets this up. And then the dominoes fall. It's a tidal wave, and nothing can stop it because of the whole religious aspect of what a Messiah is, that as soon as they start, it does not stop.
I think that's why it works so much, where like the whole thing starts and then it just keeps going and there's no stopping. There's no moment of hesitation. There's no moment where it seems like it's even possible to stop this. It just keeps fucking going. And it's not until that moment where, like, I don't know if this is what it's actually meant by it, but like that duel where he has with his cousin where he gets stabbed, that moment for me, the fact that he just uses the knife that he was killed with and stuff, it's a combination of all the themes of like control over your body and the pain, and also the whole idea of like, it doesn't matter at this point whether he dies or he doesn't. The dominoes have started to fall, and if he dies there, that's fine.
Well,
he's like no longer important. His decision is no longer important.
Like Florence Pugh's character said very early on, is that you do not kill him. You do not kill an idea or a prophet, because that's what makes him stronger.
It makes it stronger. Yeah,
makes him stronger.
Also, did we mention? Did we drop the whole? Because you said cousin. Did we actually bring up the fact that he's related?
They're cousins.
I don't know if we actually.
I don't think we spoiled it. No,
we didn't bring up in spoilers. No.
So Lady Jessica is the daughter of the Baron Harkonnen.
Yeah.
the secret daughter of the Baron Harkonnen, and
through
we
Bezak,
see,
Jekiri,
yeah,
and
and we see kind of how that happens with that other Bene Gesserit lady, the French actress, I forgot her name, when she
Leia
Leia.
goes, yeah, and
She was great for that small
she was
5 minutes.
fantastic, yeah,
I
yeah.
thought she
I
was
really
great.
liked her. Actually, I liked
Really
her
good
for those
character,
5 minutes.
right?
Was
Really
great. Yeah.
compelling. I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know if this is ever gonna come back, but this is great. And then like the way she gets like pregnant by the young Harkonnen
Faye,
guy whose name I keep Faye
yeah,
Harkonnen.
Austin
Yeah.
Butler.
Yeah, and it kind of gives you this idea of how like, because I don't think we've been told in this movies how like we got explicitly told that Jessica was supposed to have a girl and not a boy.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've been told that she was supposed to marry the Faye Harkonnen.
No, I think
Uh,
that kind of gets mentioned
okay, yeah,
later, or I don't know if
yeah,
that's
but
definitely
like,
mentioned. Like that's the whole point of
yes,
the Best Gentry wanted that to
yeah.
happen.
But basically, the whole idea is
Yeah.
that the Bene Gesserit have been basically doing eugenics and trying to breed out the like a man strong enough to be like Bene Gesserit, basically, to
For the
try to
Kwisatz
make that,
Haderach.
yeah, the Kwisatz Haderach, to try to make that the new emperor. And this whole idea of them, like, even at this point where like it seems like shitter's go hitting the fan, they're still making their plans and still trying to find a way
Yeah.
to create that emperor
Well,
that's going to become the thing. And it's just, yeah, it's a really good like moment of realization with the emperor's daughter of like, oh shit, I don't fucking matter, and neither does my dad, we're not in control at all. Yeah, that
can,
whole
I
manipulative
was going to say,
relation thing, it's great.
can
Yeah.
we quickly talk about probably I
Mm.
say one of the big differences is
Yeah.
the well they do include Atla in some
Hmm.
sense of the word, Paul's daughter, no daughter,
Mm.
sister, who
Yeah.
maybe was
Sister,
known
yeah.
at the beginning, at the end of the first
Yes.
film, or not. Who
Suspicions
knows?
and
We
stuff.
don't.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna have to go
We don't
rewatch
know
that.
yet.
But
That's the
but
comment for this episode.
yeah,
Let us know.
in the book,
Yeah.
and obviously in the
Mm.
80s film, is that there's a bigger time jump of like 4-ish, 5-ish years or something
5
like that,
years. Yeah.
and she's like a
In the
small
book, is it not a
toddler.
bit longer? Is it not like 9 years old? 9 years or so? Is it?
Is she
Because she's like
Might
9?
be
9 years
longer.
old or
Might be
something. She's
longer.
like,
Yeah,
I
oh no,
forget.
she
Well,
is talking, isn't she?
I know she gets kidnapped and then kills the Baron.
I mean,
So
5-year-olds can talk.
Yeah,
quite.
a 4-year-old,
Maybe,
wouldn't
I
do
thought she
that,
was
would
like.
it?
Yeah.
No, she is
Yeah.
talking. You may be right. Maybe it is she is 9.
Yeah.
It's like
A
a wee toddler
4-year-old can
crawling up
talk,
with a
I
wee
will say.
knife, like Chucky.
Are you thinking of
Um,
Paul's? Because they completely get rid of Paul's
Oh, is
son.
it late?
Yeah.
Leo, it's like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know.
Because
One of them,
obviously,
yeah.
the brothers were like, "We're not
We
having you
don't.
kill a child." I mean, you could,
Yeah, we
but
also don't
I
see
think they just like
the.
we're not doing the
Yeah,
time
we
jump.
also don't see the
Yeah.
Baron doing pedophilia in this one, so that's nice. Because that was
Well,
definitely.
yeah. I
You
mean,
do see him
obviously.
kill his staff and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, his staff and stuff, but yeah, so that's good.
But
I
anyway,
think that's why a
but yeah,
child
I
killed him
thought
in the
that
book.
that
It's
whole
pretty poetic.
room
Yeah.
interaction, and
Mm.
because obviously the idea is that in the book as well that Jessica takes the water of life while she is pregnant. So like Atla is like takes those, is inherited of those powers. And
Yeah.
the whole like womb talking thing, I was like, that is so bizarre, but I kind of like it.
I love
thought
it.
was
I
really
love
out
it.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
I
weirdly
think it's,
somehow weirder than how they do it in the book, but
yeah.
for some reason I think it works better. Also, not having a toddler around, kind of like, I don't know. I liked it. I think it was a lot nicer. Also, I don't like children in TV. I think it's bad for
So
children. So.
this is a very brief question. It doesn't really have anything to do with this one, but with Anya Taylor-Joy having that
Nothing.
cameo,
Yeah.
I don't
she's
see
not going to
that
be in any
happening.
future films
Mate,
or anything.
it's
No.
going to be, unless they change.
But if they do
him as
Messiah,
because they
yeah.
cannot have like Paul, right?
They
In
can
the
do
book,
it in
Paul's
age,
like
though.
15, 16 in
Yeah.
June,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe he's
Yeah.
like 15, and by the time Junkie's maybe in his 20s, there's going to be at least a 15-year age gap. No,
Yeah.
like you do.
Taylor-Joy's the same
No.
age as Timothy Chalamet, so I don't know
But
how that
that's-
would work.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like
Yeah.
in Messiah, if they age it down a little bit, the age pulled down a little bit, they could have her like just be Anna Taylor-Joy. Like it could work because she's in
No,
her
they
20s.
can't.
You were talking like a 30-year time jump would have to happen if she was
Yeah,
in the
but
film, no?
he's like, well, yeah.
Or she played someone in her
yeah.
early 20s, I guess, but even still.
I mean,
that's
he's supposed
quite
to
a
be
lot.
like 15 or 16, like
I
barely
don't know.
18 right now.
I'm
So, like,
interested to
if
see
he-
how that plays
yeah.
off, because I'm kind of
They
like
could.
I
We've seen
don't-
the
I
time
don't
jump
know,
already
it
change.
could've-
So
it could have been Dennis just going like, "Here, you want to just do this?"
Yeah.
And she goes, "Yeah, sure,
Just-
why not?"
Here you go,
Like,
But like, I
I mean,
want
they
to get
needed a
back
voice
to
actress
Yeah.
anyway, so might as well.
I want to get back to Chani because
Yes.
oh yes,
obviously in the end
Yes. Love
they have
love
that
her
thing where
character so much.
Paul asks, well, not really asks, pretty much just saying for Princess Aurelian to take his hand in
be his
marriage,
bride.
and even though he's be his bride so they can conquer the stars, and all the houses don't agree with that, right? But obviously
Yeah.
Chani is betrayed, and now that's what I mean, where I really like the stuff they do with Chani, right? Because the film ends with Chani,
Yes.
which is, if you said that at the start, I'd be like, oh, really?
She-
That's a
it
very strange
started
way to
with
end the
her.
film with
Yeah.
Chani. It
Yeah.
started with, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Dune
Started with
Part
her.
1 opens with Jamis and
Mm.
Chani,
Mm.
and Dune Part 2 ends with Chani all alone.
Yeah.
I like, because Chani's kind of the only one who can kind of see the forest from the trees of what's going on.
Yes.
And that's why I mean she's sort of the rational, the heart of the picture, the one who
Yeah,
just
because we do
wanted
see a lot of
Paul to be
Northerners
Paul and
be
be one of the
swayed.
Fremen. Yeah.
Yeah, like we see
Yeah.
a lot of the Northerners around her be
Mhm.
swayed by the idea of Paul being a Messiah slowly but surely,
Mhm.
where she's still
Yeah.
like, no, you're not the Messiah.
No.
Like, no.
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 And that's, I was like, that is kind of where, for
Mm.
me, the most emotional aspect of the film comes from
Yeah.
sort of that portrayal of her love from Paul and like the sort of path he's gone down. Because Zendaya, I mean, Zendaya is playing this character who at the start is obviously very distant, very gruff, very
Yes.
tough.
Yeah.
And still kind of has, and then she kind of always opens up to Paul, becomes this very loving person, and then
Yeah.
has that betrayal, and then by the end is sort of back where she started.
Back where she started. Yeah.
But this time with just less of her people.
Yes.
So it's like this, the whole thing actually is like the tragedy of Chani, really. Someone who's come,
she's
fallen in
wishing
love with
for the
Dave.
liberation of
Yeah.
her people, and like when they actually are liberated, the cost is too great, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's sort of the moral thing. It's like, well, if you are in this situation, you know, you can be liberated and go across the stars, but at the cost of what, you know? You're either sort of, you know, kept in war and as prisoners of your own world, or you go off and commit
Okay, let's also be
genocide, really,
honest. Like
Mhm.
the Fremen, they could have taken
Mhm.
on the Empire whenever the fuck they wanted. Like, let's be
They just
honest.
didn't have
They
the
are
inspiration to do it. Mhm.
like they are better
Scattered
soldiers than
inspiration,
the
like, yeah.
Emperor's best.
Mhm.
They could have done it on their own, but
Yeah.
it's this idea of like have depending on this external heroic messiah
Mhm.
that really does fuck them up completely and
Yeah.
turn this
Mhm.
into the bloodiest world the galaxy has seen yet, you know. And yeah, it is also really kind of like nice. I love how like it harkens back to some of the visions we had in the first movie where he sees this horrible holy war and Chani is there by his side and stuff, and like this
Oh,
kind of
Yeah.
difference of like him not like her, like we don't know if she's gonna be there now. We don't know if she's gonna be
Mhm.
by his side
Well,
anymore.
do you see that
Mhm.
amazing parallel shot they did of Paul and
Yeah.
Chani? Like
Yes.
Yeah. In the trailer.
I don't know how to
Yeah.
describe
Yeah.
the one that was from like Paul's vision of the battle in the first film.
Yes.
I mean, he does
Yes.
the kind of jab,
And she
and
does
then
the thing, but she's got different
and then
armor on.
like
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this film is
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
literally her. I was like, that was really
Yeah.
good. I really like that.
Speaking of parallel shots, one that hit me really hard at the beginning of the movie, we start with the decimation of House Atreides, and we start with the
Mhm.
Harkonnen burning all the bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
How
then
when they take
Mhm.
over and you have this thing, you cut to an exactly almost the same shot
Yeah.
of the Fremen
Yeah.
burning Harkonnen bodies in
Yeah.
a
Yep.
big pile. That hit me so fucking hard. That parallel
Mhm.
was so brilliant. Yeah, it's good fucking film, guys. Honestly, it's a really good film.
Is
Oh,
Denis? He doesn't make bad films.
Yeah.
Did you
I actually don't know
did
if
you
he's
see
if
that?
it's possible for him to
Did you
make a
see
bad
that
film.
comment?
Mhm.
Well, did you
Yeah.
see that comment? Just finally talking about Denis about how he was like, "Oh, I will never jump into anybody's universe ever again." He
Hmm.
was like the
After Blade
stress
Runner,
that
yeah.
Blade Runner gave him. He's like, I
Yeah.
still wake up
Yeah.
at night
I can
thinking
imagine.
about that. I feel for him, man. Like
Yeah.
that would
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
like
The amount
a
of
big
fucking
universe like
work and
that.
effort and planning and
Mhm.
everything that has gone into this movie, like the people who made it are absolute heroes. Like holy shit, every
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
detail of this movie. is just I recently saw an interview with the editor of the first movie, who's also edited Villeneuve's Arrival and Blade Runner, and I'm guessing edited this second movie. He was talking about the first movie and about like all the considerations of the rhythm, how they wanted it to be tactile, how they wanted the movie to feel, and especially the challenges of things like the voice and the visions. And when he breaks it down, man, the fucking amount of work that went into trying to make that clear and obvious, but still like not dumb it down, like
Yeah.
holy fucking shit! Like the breaks in continuity, and he talks about like montages of of emotion, of mood, like the idea of like cutting with emotion rather than cutting with literal continuity. And we see a lot of this in this second movie, both during the time jump and whenever we're like traveling and going to that thing where like we're cutting from one scene to like hours, if not days later, and it still feels completely cohesive because of that like running theme that's going throughout all of these cuts and stuff. It's honestly, it's a fucking work of art. This
yeah,
movie.
Joe Walker.
Yeah.
Joe Walker has been his editor since
Yes.
Sicario, and he actually won his
Oh,
Oscar
Sicario.
for Dune Part 1.
Oh,
He won
thank
an
God.
editing Oscar
Okay,
for
good.
that. So there you go. But yeah, he's been
Yeah.
with him for a long time. Is there any? So before we kind of sign off here, is there any other aspects of the story you want to delve into while we're hearing spoilers?
There's one small thing I like. Despite the fact that it's very much like this movie is very much questioning religion and especially focusing on how set up and how like manipulated this whole mythology that the Fremen have, like how it's basically an implanted kind of memory.
Yeah.
It is really interesting to me how there's still moments where even the film itself makes us doubt whether that like that is real and actually happening, because it is still showing us the forceful nature of how the like this order is pushing this idea, especially on Lady Jessica's part, even in that moment where he's supposed to resurrect, where she forces Chani to cry with the voice and stuff like that. It's still, there's still moments where like he's doing his first sand dune like sandworm ride, and the fucking biggest worm they've ever seen is the one that happens
Yeah.
to appear, and it's like there's no way anyone could have manipulated that to happen. So it's these moments of like chance that make you as an audience question and be like, well, yeah, but is the prophecy really real? Because that's the thing, like as humans we take these random dots of information
Oof.
and find a narrative within them, because that's what we're hardwired to do. So I really like how the movie kind of like makes you do
Yeah.
that. It makes you question even the fact that even when it's so plain and it shows you so plainly like, yeah, no, this is fake, they're manipulating these people. We're seeing it in Chani's reactions, we're seeing it in Lady Jessica's active spreading of misinformation and manipulation, and still it makes you go, shit, but is it real though? Is it like, is there like,
Is
you
it?
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
really
love
good.
that.
It's really fucking good. Yeah.
I do. Rebecca Ferguson's just so fascinating in this film. I
She's
just
so
really like the way
Oh,
it
she
was
was
played, and I
great.
really it is very similar. And that whole scene where it's like first
Yeah.
we attack those who are afraid and those who
Yeah.
are vulnerable and weak, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, and you're a bad bastard. You're a bad bastard.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
honestly, that's the thing. Like, for someone as compassionate as she was in the first film, and we don't actually see her commit any like atrocities or actively hurt any people, but her manipulation, her
Yeah.
Yeah.
exploitation of these people.
She is the
Yeah,
ultimate winner at the end of the film.
she
She's the
is.
one
Yeah,
who got her entire
and
plans put in motion.
she is
She
doing
wins.
exactly what her husband wanted to do, because we
Mhm.
see this honorable man who just wanted, no, but he wanted to use and exploit the Fremen for their qualities.
Yeah.
That was his goal, and
I
she is
don't
the
know if
one
he would have done
actually
it for the
fulfilling it.
extent of a holy
Oh, I
war.
don't think
He
so.
wanted to build a
No.
relationship with the
Yeah.
Fremen, no?
Yeah,
Yeah.
to
Well,
be
yeah.
more. I think
It's way
he
more
was more
insidious in the
build it
books, but
just
yeah.
in case
Mm.
Yeah.
of like there's an emperor
Yeah, but he
takeover
basically wanted his
opportunity.
own army. Yeah, he wanted his own emperor's
Yeah, not to
army of
kill
zealots.
billions.
No, 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 no. Obviously, no. But like,
Poe
neither
Dameron
does
wouldn't
Lady
do that.
Jessica. She just wants to make sure that her son
Yeah,
and
does
her
she?
daughter survive. Like that's basically what she's trying to do at this point, and it
Well, we'll
turns so
find out in the
insidious.
next one.
I will say, I also
We'll
very
find
much
out. We'll
like
find out.
the parallel between Paul's
Mm.
father and himself, whereas like Paul's father never married Lady Jessica to try and keep that kind of idea of like, oh, I can marry for power kind of open, and you get Paul
Yeah.
doing the same
Yeah.
exact thing with Chani, which is the person
Yeah.
who he actually
Yeah.
cares about, and like setting her aside for that kind of like role and that kind of security and power. Yeah, it's real
Well,
fucking good. It's a good movie.
I'm sure we'll find out in, well, who knows? Well, speaking of the future of Dune, we obviously are getting that Dune TV series, the Sisterhood one. I think Warner Brothers is going ahead with that.
I think
At
it's
some point with Max.
I think
what was
someone
it, like-
mentioned, yeah, I think someone mentioned it would be a good idea to do Dune 1, 2, and then do Messiah, and then do the rest of the books in a show. How that
I
would
think
be
this
like a
is
really good
this is
idea.
dealing with the Bene Gesserit. This is
Yeah,
Sisterhood.
this seems to
Dune
be like
Sisterhood,
more
I think it is.
prequel-y kind of stuff.
Dune Prophecy.
Dune Prophecy.
Prophecy.
Apparently
Sorry,
it's
I
coming
thought it
out
was
this
Sisterhood.
year.
They're
No,
probably
it's
there you
about
go.
the
trying
Sisterhood.
to.
It's about the
It's
Bene
about the
Gesserit,
Sisterhood.
but it's
They're probably trying to
it's
grasp
just
at
called
that kind of
Prophecy.
like Game of Thrones vibe that Dune has, and maybe hoping
Yeah,
that
for
they
sure,
get
for
their
sure.
Game of Thrones back, because it didn't work with House of the
Filming-
Dragon.
But
Filming began November 2022 and wrapped December 2023, so it's all
Oh
filmed.
wow.
well, there you
Oh,
go.
wow.
It's done. It's actually done.
Yeah,
Incredible.
so that's coming out for sure.
We'll be getting that apparently this year as well. Denis has, of course, said he wants to finish this trilogy. He wants to do
Yeah.
Messiah, but he wants to do another film first. He has
Yes.
four projects he wants to
Okay.
do. He's planned out. So I think he
Do
wants
you
to do the
think-
original film and then
Do you think
do
Warner
Messiah
Brothers
after that?
is going to try to do a multiverse, like a cinematic
What?
universe shit? Sorry, no, I mean
Multiverse?
cinematic universe thing, where like they're going to.
What? Oh my god, Deadpool
That
on
didn't-
Arrakis! What the?
Yeah.
No. I meant cinematic universe thing. Sorry, but like a Marvel thing where like they're like, oh, you're gonna have to watch this show about the.
No, I don't think it will get that
to
convoluted. I
understand
think they'll just.
Messiah.
No,
I think
I
they'll
want
have-
I'm hoping,
Deadpool.
but-
I want Deadpool on Arrakis, like
No, I want-
sly jokes
that's-
against Star Wars, and being
Oh,
like,
man.
oh, another
Yeah.
desert planet. Where have I saw that?
If they
Yeah,
could,
I don't
they'd
know.
100%, they'd 100% have Deadpool riding a worm. If they could do that, they would.
I'm sure
They could
I'm-
do
I'm
that if
sure
they
they would.
want.
But yes, Denis is going to do another film first, so I wouldn't expect Messiah for another
Hmm.
maybe 3 years.
Do we
probably
know
the same
anything about
time.
his next
Yeah.
project?
Yeah. No, not really. He just has said that he's doing something else before he
Okay.
jumps back on.
Because
Dune,
I'm not
which is good. I'm
surprised
glad
he
he's
will be
doing
taking
something
most
else.
of his team
Uh-huh.
with him. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I
I
presume
think
he'll
it'd be
have,
good
you
to
know,
if
Joe
they give
Walker
them
and
more
maybe
time
Craig
for them
Fraser
to
working on
grow,
Mm.
like give the actors time to
Yeah,
grow. It would
yeah.
help more with the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
time jumping aspect
Definitely.
if they do it.
Definitely. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway,
In a couple of years.
But anyway, let's that will wrap up today's show. So thank you very much, Gonzalo, for joining me.
It's a pleasure. Go watch Dune Part 2.
Absolutely, and
It's a
go
pleasure.
and go wake up though, and thank you, Kyle, as well for joining me.
it's a bit harsh. All right, thank you.
I was just going to repeat what Gonzalo was saying.
Yeah.
Yes, go watch Dune 2 in cinemas if you can. I will actually probably try and see it again before it
Yeah,
leaves cinemas as
I
well.
will.
What I was going to say, yeah, on next week's show, we're going to be talking about DreamWorks, our favourite DreamWorks film, because Kung Fu Panda
gonna be
4
fun.
is opening this Friday. So I don't know if are you going to go see that, Kyle? I've not seen the third one.
No,
might, actually.
no.
I kind of
not.
like the Kung Fu
Gonzalo.
Panda movies. I might.
Well, you can.
Well, it's
hopefully you can.
a certain
enjoy
I'd
that.
like to go
person
do that, actually.
who was
Uh-huh.
extremely hyped for that film on Twitter
Yes.
saw it, posted the review, then deleted it because I think it may have broken their contractual agreements with
Yeah,
DreamWorks.
embargo.
Oh.
Well,
Oh,
hopefully they
damn.
get sued. Anyway,
you know
that will
who
be
this
our next
person
show.
is.
We're going to be talking about
Yeah.
DreamWorks, our favourite DreamWorks films. But look, we just give our opinion on Dune Part 2. But at the end of the day, those were our unwanted opinions. Thank you very much.